guys can tell us a little bit about, actually, you know what? I'll go and just dive into my first question, which will kind of give you a chance to introduce yourselves. But the docuseries, which people should watch it, thereligionbusiness.com. I know you're probably getting a lot of hate all around the different place, but there's also probably some people coming alongside you saying, hey, I understand what you're saying, and I understand the need for transparency and accountability. I think it's important in my life. I think it's important in everybody's life, and why shouldn't it be important in the church's life? You know, so I get that. But when I watched the docuseries, I thought it was pretty interesting because it opens up in this white room, interrogation style moment, and the question is asked, why do you hate the church? So maybe we start with that.
Yeah, for sure. My response is, what is a church? Yeah. You know, and that's been the incubator for this whole series is what is church? Because I was raised in, you know, what you could define as a mega church in Los Angeles, moved to San Diego, went to a very large scale church there that grew, you know, like, I'm trying to think of what Christian band, one of the like top, no, it sounds like Coldplay kind of, but they, you know, these boys came out of my church. They were the sons of the pastor. Yeah. And so I was just born and raised into this system, and I loved it.
Switchfoot. Yeah. No. When you were saying it, I'm trying to think. I think you're from the West Coast, so they're surfers. Switchfoot's like from the skateboard culture, like or surfing culture. Yeah. Yeah,
the Foreman brothers. So it's like I was probably a decade younger than them, so I looked up to them and idolized them. And,
sure.
My youth pastor was the drummer or the bass player in Dogwood. I don't know if you know that Christian punk band from back in the day. But Dogwood was one of my favorite bands. And so I just came out of this kind of, like you said, action sports meets mega church scene. And some of my most formative memories were shaped there. I went to church 4 days a week. My parents sang in choir. I sang in choir. I went to every summer camp you could imagine. And then I started traveling the world for commercials and work. And I would go to developing nations, and I'd go to church there and go to seminaries there. And I would come back to the States, and I just felt God more overseas in these impoverished churches. And I saw miracles, and I just saw God alive. And then I'd walk in, and I'd just feel the stage production almost, and it would hit me. And I'm in production, so I understand how the lights work and the fog machines work and the cameras and the switchers and the earpieces. Right. And I'm like, this is all just a performance. Yeah. And then if you understand music, you understand rhythm and pacing, and you're like, man, this is all just an emotional ruse to get me fired up, you know. And when my hands are in the air and I'm singing and I'm crying, 3, 2, 1, out walks the giving pastor. Right. He's going to give a sermon on giving, you know. Right. And I could literally time it down to the beat. And at that point, I just started asking, what is church? And for the first time ever, I actually picked up the Bible and read it. Yep. And I said, wow, this church and this Bible is way different than what I'm used to going to. And to your point about a lot of haters, the haters kind of just roll off our back.
I love it.
Because we have so much support. And even today, I had a gentleman message us through Instagram, and Chris and I are very active on our social channels. And he said, hey, I really want to talk to you. And 2 hours later, this genius theologian who speaks Greek and Hebrew, you know, has uplifted us and encouraged us and given us tidbits of wisdom that I hadn't even seen. And he's like, we'll be praying for you. And anyway, my community can be supporting you guys. And so 90% of our interactions with people who know the show or know our Instagram or our YouTube or know us is all positive and encouraging. And it's not just like cheerleading positive. It's, hey, I want to help encourage you, or we want to help encourage you in your walk or in your faith. And I'm like, dang, there's church happening right here, right now.
That is really awesome to hear. That's really awesome to hear.
And I'll tell you right now, the only people that have pushed back so far are people making money off the system.
I was going to say, like, I saw your Instagram page the other day, and you posted something about Furtick and the Elevation Group. And it seemed like there was some guy, and this is what I love about watching what you're doing, because you're really, I think, leaning into the fruits of the Spirit when you respond to folks, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and gentleness and self-control, right? Because somebody, commented that you don't know the Furticks and this, that, and the other. And it must have been a son of another guy that was a pastor that was closely associated with him. I don't remember his name. You probably do. And Nathan, I think you responded back saying, hey, we'd love to have a conversation with Stephen Furtick and your dad. And if your dad won't have a conversation, we'll have a conversation with you.
Yeah, I remember the conversation. Yeah, his dad's a large scale pastor out of the Dallas area.
Sure.
Private jets, the works.
Yeah.
And so that's all we want to do is we're like, let's have conversations in healthy discourse, man. If you disagree with our argument, which I think our argument has legs, let's talk. And the problem is the original poster art of the show was a house of cards.
Yep.
And we always say all you got to do in this institutional model is flick one card out, and the whole house collapses, the whole institutional house, and that's why no one will debate us. Not